Welcome everyone to Chatting Challenges. We're lucky enough to be here with Lucia today, who's going to have a little chat about her role within football. Lucia, do you want to sort of introduce yourself?
Hello there, how is everyone?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
So, yeah, sort of tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within football.
Okay, so where do I start? Do I start with playing? Do I start with coaching? Where should we start from?
So your current roles.
All right, so at the moment I am a coach for St Margaretsbury, first team coach, which is in a semi-pro club in the Essex Senior League for the men's team. And then I also am involved with clubs like Barnet and Aston doing development programs and community programs involved in coaching with youth. So it's a bit of a mixture that I'm involved in, because also being an FA mentor, but I mean that's on pause at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I've been trying to go through, but yeah, they're the main ones at the moment.
Cool, lots of strings to your bow then. So so talk to me, how did you first get involved in football, whether that was sort of like your playing career when you were young? How did you get involved in the game? Yeah,
so growing up in the 90s, playing out was always a big thing. So the main thing was I was always playing out, and I ended up falling in love with playing football and just playing with my friends, playing with the boys, playing outside. And it kind of grew from there, playing with my brothers and things like that. And then obviously from then for about 7 or 8 years old, maybe 9, I started playing with boys teams, because back then there wasn't much social media. There wasn't much being able to find out information, and I think girls teams, especially around that time, was much more difficult to find. So getting involved with boys teams was just an easier and better, an easy way to find football. So I was in boys football for most of my youth, and then I started playing actually ladies football when I was about 15 onwards, and playing for first teams like Hendon Ladies and Tottenham Ladies. And yeah, then that's when I started having a real feel for ladies football and football with females. And it was, I say that was one of my favourite parts of my football career. We call it a career, but yeah. And then I got injured, so I stopped playing from when I was 18, or just before I was 18. So it was a bit of a short football playing side of things, but it was a fun experience all the way through, to be fair.
Did you ever experience any sort of like resistance to you being involved when you were sort of playing for the boys teams and anything like that? Did you ever have any sort of like adverse experiences around that?
Well, I wouldn't say I had any of that, but I mean, I think obviously when you're a girl, so obviously then I was a girl playing with boys, there's always at first there's a bit of a shock. Oh my God, a girl can play football, and sometimes you feel like you need to show them that you're not one to mess with. Before when you're on that pitch, you go in for that tackle and you're like, yep, I'm not messing with her anymore, like she knows what she's doing. But apart from maybe being a bit surprised and shocked, not really. And when I was playing with the boys in the team, they just saw me as a player and I saw them as players, and whoever I was playing against, I just saw them as players. I didn't see them as oh, it's a boy, it's a girl. So I think it was just more of a surprise element at that time, but I wouldn't say there was anything else towards that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And sort of jumping into senior football at 15, was that something that was a difficult experience, or were they quite welcoming in bringing you into the team?
Yeah, so I think playing with the boys kind of gave me a little bit of resilience. So when I was playing with with females in the ladies game, I don't think I stood out as in being seen to be a young player. Where I was quite shy off the pitch, football was where I felt very confident in. So I think that's where my confidence as a person, because I love football so much and I saw it as my kind of safe place and my environment that I know I can feel happy and great and then just switch off from the world. That kind of things never came into it. I mean, of course, when you're in a game, obviously the older players are always, and I'm sure players still get this now because obviously I haven't played for a while. Let's not go for how long, but I'm sure they still get it as young players. The older players are going to test you. That's normal in the game. They're going to see how strong you are. They're going to see how much they can challenge you. But I always gave as good as I got. So yeah, it was a good experience. I think that was, like I said, one of the highlights of me playing was being able to play in the ladies team at a young age. And it's just a shame it got cut short, I guess.
So you sort of mentioned that you had an injury fairly early, sort of in your playing career. Was it at that point that you sort of decided to maybe focus a little bit more on your coaching?
Well, actually, it didn't really come across that way. What happened is I got injured. I tore my ACL, and I kind of had a break from football and went into more studying. So I thought, I've tore my ACL, let me learn about it. And I ended up, going to university and studying sports therapy. So I kind of learned injuries in sports because obviously it was something that I could kind of relate to. But then when I actually came back from uni, I realized, being on the sideline and being a sports therapist didn't feel the same. Yeah. And I wanted to be more involved in the actual football element of it, technical, tactical, actually being involved in training a bit more, and that made me realize, and I'm sure a lot of people can, relate, that if you go away from the game, you tend to start missing it again. So I did miss it and I wanted to get back into it, but in a much more involved way. So I went and did my level 1. And once I did that, I just realized, yeah, this is for me. This is my calling. This is something that it feels right. And I haven't kind of stopped from then. And that was like 10 years ago since I did my level 1. So it's been a while.
Long journey then. That's really cool. So once you sort of got your level 1, where did you sort of get your first sort of role, if you like coaching role within the game? Yeah, so
after I did my level 1, I think it was about a couple months later, I started to work for Aston in the community, and my first session was an estate session, and I absolutely loved it, like working with the young boys and just being part of the community environment. So not only being there as a coach for them, but just being there kind of like a friend and a mentor as well as a coach. Like I said, as soon as I got into coaching, I knew, this was made for me. It felt right. It felt like I was missing something, but I didn't know what it was until I actually did it. And I realized, this is the place that I want to be. And being able, and to be honest, I haven't stopped doing those roles. Like till this day, 10 years later, I'm still in the same estate that I started with, doing my level 1, because I just love that kind of environment. And it's not something that I don't think I'll ever stop doing, because it's something that's close to my heart. And I think it's really important to get out there and talk to young players, even if they're not going to become the pros. If it's something that they're enjoying and it's something you can help and give them a positive impact, not only in football but in life skills, I think you should go and do it.
Amazing. So as you mentioned, you're currently with St Margaretsbury. How did that all come about then?
Okay, yeah, so when lockdown started, at the beginning of last year, I was with a men's team. I was with a men's team for 2 seasons prior, and I decided during lockdown to reactivate my Twitter, because as you've got not much to do, you think what kind of things can you do? And I thought, let me use Twitter as a positive and just get more engaged and connect with some football environment that I might have not connected with before, and gain some information, knowledge. And it was a really positive thing because I got to connect with more people in the football world. And based on that, I actually saw a tweet come up regarding St Margaretsbury needing a first team coach. And from then I spoke to the manager, I went through an interview process. And then from that, I ended up getting introduced to the club, different parts, players, people in the management team, and it kind of took from there.
That's really cool. So I guess the big question I kind of have is how did the players initially react when they sort of, stereotypically, if a female comes into the game, it's probably something they haven't seen very much of in terms of having a coach around them. So what was their sort of initial reactions?
I mean, you know what? The players are great. Like I said, 3 seasons in being in men's football. Now it's been my first season in a semi-pro environment. Like you said, it's probably something they're not used to seeing. However, the players have been really great. They're all really engaging, and the only thing that I ask for when I'm in, regardless of whatever club I would be in, is just to be seen as a coach, regardless of my gender.
Yeah.
So and they take that on board, and if we're coaching and doing putting on sessions, they are really great, they are really engaging, so I can commend them for that. Really, I haven't had anything, they might not be seeing it, they don't put off that they're surprised, they just get on with it, and they do what they're supposed to be doing on the pitch, so can't complain.
Now that's fantastic. And how have you sort of found, obviously through lockdown, has it been difficult to continue engaging with the players? What have the club sort of done to try and keep them fit and ticking over, really?
Yeah, so obviously this is a new environment for everyone, so it's difficult to know what you can do to try and keep engaged, and it's hard when football is such a physical sport, and then you're not being able to do that side of things. You're finding other ways to be engaged. So I'm sure, just like many, we're always in contact in the group chat, or I'll always check on my players and see how they're doing when I can. We've also, obviously, during the whole lockdown, because I know we've been on and off, so it's been on and off starts, which is obviously a bit challenging as well, because it's something that you're not used to in a season, to have to stop and start. We've had Zoom calls, Zoom meetings. We've also done football analysis, which I found is really great. I mean, some teams may not be used to doing it, but again, the players took it really on board, and I think it was really good that we could look at some of our games that we had played so far and just have a discussion about it and talk about things that we think we did really well, things we could improve on when the season hopefully comes back. So there is some positives to take out of it, because things like the video analysis is something you could do over a Zoom call even when lockdown's over. So it's just taking some of the things that we've learned in this experience and trying to see if we can continue it. But I know all players, including mine, are waiting to get back onto the pitch and playing with the balls at their feet. So yeah, it's been a bit challenging, but I think everyone's doing their best to try and keep everyone engaged as they can, because at the same time, there's going to be moments where you're going to need a little bit of space during this lockdown because you're not used to this. So it's just having that balance.
No, 100%. Sounds like you're doing everything you can to sort of keep them engaged. So from you personally, is there anything that you've sort of tried to, I know lots of people have done lots of CPD events and tried to learn something new. Is there anything that you've done during this lockdown?
Yeah, so I've gone in contact with a lot of CPDs. I think CPDs was a big part, especially at the start of the lockdown. Like I said, using this time to just try and interact with more people in the football environment, because I think it's been great. I've learned new stories, got some great insights from different coaches that I never would have met during this lockdown, because I've been using it to thrive, whether it be through social media or things like that. So I've got to get contact with people, with coaches, players that I may have not have done in a normal environment. So I've took that on board, and I think it's been really great to find out some different people's stories from different backgrounds and different areas in the game.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. So we'll sort of move on to sort of International Women's Day. This is what the Chatting Challenge series is all about. And this year's theme is around choosing to challenge. So choosing to challenge any gender bias or inequality that face. Have you ever been in a situation where you've potentially had to challenge someone's behaviour?
Yeah, so when I think about something like that on the choose to challenge, one thing comes to mind, which I think possibly quite a lot of females could relate to, being a female coach, and that's the type of thing like assumptions. Assuming that you're not the coach first is one that comes up quite a bit. I'm sure I'm not the only one, regardless if you're in the male game or in the female game. I can guarantee most females have been asked or assumed, oh, are you looking for the physio room? And it's something that comes up a lot. And I think where I get questions are going to be asked because maybe that they're not used to seeing females, but the more female coaches is going to be, the less likely it's going to become more of a natural thing and less of a surprise. So rather than seeing it as it's something that's different, rather going to the physio word first, maybe see if they're over the coach first. And I think just as a female coach, my advice to any other females out there is just make sure that you are confident and you make people aware from the start that you are here as the coach. And if they say, oh, the physio room's down there, love, okay, well, thanks for telling me, I'll let them know when they arrive.
No, 100%. I can imagine that's quite difficult, but that sounds like good advice, just to sort of set the record straight, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah, straight from the jump.
So is there any advice that you'd give yourself as when you're a little bit younger or earlier in your stage, if like reflecting back on the learning that you've had, is there any advice you'd give yourself as a younger coach?
Oh, okay, yeah, so looking back, if I was talking to younger me, I would basically just let them know that, you know, there are going to be some challenges, just like everyone else gets challenges in life, but there are going to be some challenges, but just keep persevering. And, you know, females in football are expanding, and a saying that I like to go through is you either win or you learn. So if something is coming towards challenges, just take that as the experience and let it become something that, you know, it can strengthen you and give you more confidence, and just see it as something that you're going to overcome as a barrier. And yeah, just overcome any barriers or challenges that come your way by keep persevering.
Have you faced any major sort of barriers or challenges within your career so far?
Let me have a think. I think some of the things that may come across is that I think coaches should just be seen as coaches. Regardless what gender you are, regardless what gender you're coaching, regardless what sport you're coaching, just not to be seen as a female first and just be seen as a coach. I think that's a big one. I've had a few discussions recently regarding around that topic. And I think it's really important just to get that, if you're doing the best you can to develop yourself as a coach, which is then going to develop your players and have a positive impact on your players. And that's your aim, which is my aim. For me as continue as a coach, is to have a positive impact on any players that I end up coaching. I think the gender shouldn't really come into it.
100%. So on a slightly more positive note then, so what are some of the career highs of what you've had so far?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say I've got two major like proudest moments. I think two moments that really stand out, especially in the last 3 years being in the men's game. And the first one is that being with my previous club and actually developing my coaching, and that impact of development of my coaching into the last season I was with them, which was 2018 to 19, came through and put a development on my players to us then coming to the point that we were in the league, in the running for winning the league. Obviously COVID stopped that, so there's always going to be that what if, but the fact that we got to that point and just progress as a club and a team, through me as a developing my coaching, came through during that journey. That's always going to be a proudest moment, because it's something that I could physically see have an impact on my players. As for currently, the proudest moment is with St Margaretsbury and actually being part of the FA Cup. And we've got to be in the FA Cup, and it's something that this is the first time I've got to experience being involved in, and getting through actually some of those preliminary rounds and getting to experience those wins and having that as a team and with my players and enjoying those wins that we got to get through a few of those cups and experiencing an actual FA Cup was something that I'll always be really proud of, and hopefully that's not the last time. So yeah, they were definitely my top two.
Did it add any additional nerves, sort of being involved in the FA Cup? Did it hold a bit of weight, because obviously it's such a special competition?
Yeah, so I think especially the very first game, I wouldn't say I showed my nerves, but I definitely showed my enthusiasm, and I was quite, excited and loud during that time. But yeah, it's a great experience, and the fact that, like I said, we got to go through a few of the rounds, it was such a great experience to be part of, and I'll look forward to hopefully more of those to come.
Yeah, no, hopefully. And sort of reflecting on your journey so far, is there anyone that sort of majorly that you think has really supported you along your journey to where you are now? Yeah,
so where I feel like I have a lot of people in my journey that I could run a list. I'm not gonna lie, we'll be here all day. But I've got really close friends and family. I think it's really important for you to have a good supporting network around you. And they are a really good support to me. They've always been encouraging in anything that I'm trying to do, whether it be life and football. So I have to be thankful to all my close friends and family, but also just I'm so thankful for being in part of some of the the environments that I've been in, being able to work with Aston in development programs, being able to work with some of Barnet's programs and things that they're doing, working abroad, doing some of the football actual courses, the FA courses that I've been able to do. I've come across some amazing coaches and amazing mentors. Even being part of the FA mentor program, I got to get involved with so many other coaches and learn some great things. So I have so many great football coaches that I've had around me and tutors and mentors that I've just picked, and that give me such great nuggets of knowledge. I've just taken them and took them all on board. And like I said, the list is so long, but everybody that I have been in contact with and gained that experience in the different departments and clubs and courses that I've been on, and family and friends, I just have to say thank you, because you've all had your little part in being part of my process.
So you sort of mentioned, obviously, you yourself are an FA mentor, but you've mentioned that you have people that sort of mentor you. Is that something that you'd recommend to young coaches that are sort of first starting out into the game? Is it something that they should try and seek out?
Definitely. I think having a mentor and having other coaches that really strong, confident coaches around you is a really good thing to have, because if you do have any queries or you have anything that you want to run by anybody, it's really good to just learn some great things with them and just see something from a different perspective. And I think that's really great, that sometimes there's no right or wrong, but just seeing a different perspective can just give you a different kind of insight into that kind of equation that you might be looking at. So I think it's great to have, if you can, get yourself involved with any coaches that you may know, any mentors that you may know in the football environment, and just use them. They're your friends as well, so you can just talk to them and have a chat. I think it's important to try and have that around you if you can.
Yeah. So did you sort of, when you were a little bit younger, have any like major role models within the game, particularly any females, when you were sort of growing up and even into your coaching career? Is there anyone that you sort of really aspire, that you're inspired by?
So I think when I was playing football, it was a bit more difficult because we didn't really have female football on the TV like that. So obviously I was just looking at football, the normal males game on football and TV, and they're the kind of things that I was kind of watching. So when it comes to my playing side of things, I think it was a little bit more difficult because that wouldn't really happen. So, but as the time's gone on, I think it's great that now there's way more exposure and way more publicity in the female game, and now young football players as well as young female coaches can have a look and see that they've got players, like Rachel Yankee that's there that they could have looked at, or Alex Scott that's now actually on the TV as a presenter, which they can actually see a bit more. But as for like coaching side of things, I think looking at currently people like Jill Ellis and Emma Hayes, those kind of female coaches have a really positive role right now. And I think now that we've actually have some of those role models in the limelight, so to speak, I think it's great for future and upcoming coaches, future and upcoming players. But yeah, when I was younger, it's a little bit different. But now I think it's great that they've got them role models they can look up to. And I think as females, we just need to continue to break those barriers and start seeing not only females in the female game, but females in the male game, and just female coaches and players in general just need to get that, be more aware that we're here, basically.
So you sort of mentioned a little bit around the evolution in terms of how the women's game has become a little bit more visible. So like you say, we're seeing female pundits on both men and women's football. Is that sort of where you see the biggest evolutions in terms of what's happened to the female game?
Oh, I definitely think that there's way more exposure, because when I was playing, I mean, like I said, I was playing for Tottenham's first team, and they wouldn't have, they probably, if I went to go and let's say look at the ladies first team now, I know I'm going to see a big difference, and it's going to be a positive difference, because now they're getting, the care that they should be getting. They're getting, all the quite right facilities. They're actually getting now a bit more of a wage that's a little bit more, I mean, it's not there where maybe they I know there's a bit around that they're not very happy between the wage and stuff, but it's a livable wage compared to, when I was playing, there was no wage whatsoever. So it is progressing. Unfortunately, I think it's progressing at a slow rate, but I think we have some years that some catching up to do based on, football for females restarting again a bit later down the line and having to progress back up that ladder. But it's definitely moving in the right direction, and I just hope it continues to, expand and get the exposure it deserves, because it should have happened, I think, a long time ago.
We're lucky enough that we're going to be a host city here in London for the Women's Euro 2022 sort of games. So what sort of impact do you think that's going to have on the local communities? Obviously, with your history and your experience working in the communities, what sort of impact do you think that hosting a big major tournament like that is going to have?
I think it's going to have a big positive impact, to be honest, because football in the UK is such a big thing. It's what brings us all together as a nation. It's something that unites us, sport in general, but football especially. And I think it will just bring us all connected together, having something that's actually in our home territory, and especially with how well the potentials of the men's games looking for England, how the females games looking for England. We've got so many positive things to look forward to, and then on top of that, being able to have the actual hosting it, I think it will just bring, like I said, it brings everybody together. We all have that sense of unity, and I think that's a really lovely thing to have. So if it can bring that positive impact, which I think it will, I think, yeah, it's great.
What are your sort of wishes for sort of the future of, I know it's going to be a big question, but what are your wishes for like the future of women's football? Where do you really want to sort of see it go?
I think it just needs to keep getting the exposure that it deserves. I mean, like I said, if you look back on the history of female football around the 1920s, it was bigger. It was the biggest sport that was going on, and before it got banned. So just getting it back to the exposure it deserves. It needs to continue to build. I mean, like I said, it's a little bit slow. I think it should be progressing at a faster rate, but it's in the right direction, and that's all you can really ask for. Just the positive right direction of moving, getting more exposure around it, eventually to the point that it's getting the same levels of fans, publicity as it should in the men's game as well. So just continue going up that ladder and keep building is the main thing. I think it will do that. Just obviously I'm not sure how many years that will take, but hopefully less rather than more. And
in the next sort of few years, do you sort of anticipate there being more women involved in the men's game as well?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm obviously part of trying to break some of those barriers, and I think any females that want to get into the men's game, I just say go for it and get yourself out there, be confident, show your ability as a coach, and push yourself forward if it's the area that you want to work in. I don't think anyone should be pigeonholed, or anyone should feel that they can't do something that they want to do. So regardless of what gender you're coaching, like I said, regardless of what area or field, if it is females game you want to go to, or if the males game you want to go to, just keep pushing forward for that. And what I'm going to continue to try and do is just continue to break those barriers. And if I can't get to the point of where I want to achieve in the males game, I'm hoping that I'm breaking down some of those barriers, so any other female coaches below me or around me can get to that point whenever they decide to become a coach and want to go into female game, and it breaks some of them barriers so they can get to where they want to. If that happens, then I feel like I've achieved some of the aims that I wanted. If it's not for me and another coach gets there.
Right, it's fantastic. I want to say a massive thank you for sort of getting involved with our Chatting Challenges series for International Women's Day. Really appreciate all of your time. And yeah, thank you to everyone that was listening in. If you want to find any more in regards to how you can get involved in women's football, please contact Middlesex FA, come onto the website, and we can direct you to get you more involved. Thanks, guys.